Well, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Great pleasure to host you here. And welcome to all guests from both the Netherlands and Japan here in this studio. We're live. We would have loved to be in Japan, honestly, in Tokyo. But nevertheless, we are glad to be here in this great studio here at the Olympic training facilities of Papendal in the Netherlands, where a lot of the action is taking place in preparation of the Olympics. And it's a pleasure to host this event today with you and focus on the topic of personalized nutrition. And especially take the topic as sports and nutrition as an inspiration in that field. So, we have an exciting program, a lot of speakers, a lot of guests, and I'm happy to host that event today. My name is Jeroen Wouters. I'm a Global Connections lead at Foodvalley, and in addition, also Innovation Manager of Sports and Nutrition at the Dutch Olympic Training Center of Papendal. And I will guide you through this day, and hopefully it will offer a lot of inspiration, a lot of interaction, and new insights in this wonderful topic. I'm very passionate about that, sports and nutrition as an example for elite athletes, but also for the regular sports person, the amateur, the person that is also asking his body to present a sports activity. So it's so great to make that combination in that. And with that, I would like to welcome also the guests here in the studio. And we have three honorable guests today. First, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Katsu Kotu. And he is working at NARO, the National Agricultural Research Organization of Japan, but based in the Netherlands. Good morning. And you're based here actually in the Wageningen area, right?
Yeah, right.
Welcome. Great to have you over. In addition, also, Renger Witkamp is here, Professor Nutritional Biology at Wageningen University. Renger, great to have you over.
Thank you.
And in addition to that, an honor to have my colleague Judith van der Horst also here at Foodvalley, Innovation Lead in the topic food and health. Both Renger and Judith will be speaking later on, and we have a lot of interaction also with NARO. So we will dive into that topic as well. And prior to a real start, I have a few slides to share with you, in which we will indicate what the program is like and how things are evolving today. Firstly, I would like to thank the co-organizers of this event, because we have acted in that in a team operation. Of course, the TMNL Tokyo Expo, as we're here in the studio, and the Sports Center of Papendal was involved. Also, Eat2Move, the Innovation Hub for Sports and Nutrition, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, providing the interaction with Japan, and also the East Netherlands Enterprise Agency, OostNL. Above all, a lot of interaction with the Embassy of Japan, the Tokyo Dutch Embassy, and it's a great pleasure also to have participants from the Tokyo Embassy participating today. And with that, it is good to dive a bit into the topic. As I said, working at Foodvalley and at the Training Center of Papendal. My name is Jeroen Wouters. And what is a nice thing about Foodvalley is that we're in a new development also, and we have a strong vision. And the vision is looking at 2050, a longer time ahead, looking at the strategic developments that we have to undertake, delivering tasty, affordable, healthy, and sustainable food. And especially in that healthy food aspect, the topic of personalized nutrition, of course, comes up. And it's a pleasure to take that topic along today and work on that and further build on collaboration in that aspect. And as Foodvalley hosts an international network of a lot of partners, it's a special warm welcome to the Japanese partners that are active in our network, because we have a group of more than 10 Japanese companies participating in the Foodvalley network. And it's a great pleasure you all participating in the program and also as attendant in this event. So it's a great pleasure to welcome you also in that respect. And one of the new items I would briefly like to highlight is that we are entering a partnership with the World Economic Forum. That's a newly established collaboration, just started this year, in which we, together with the World Economic Forum, work on food innovation hubs throughout the world. And as Foodvalley, we have the task and the ambition to further develop in the Food Innovation Hub Europe. And one of the fun things also there is that we selected the topic of personalized nutrition as a starting item. So that brings also the global perspective of our activities to the forefront. And in that respect, we look into obesity or lifestyle-related diseases, but also malnutrition, which is taking place both in Western communities as well over the world. And there you can, of course, also look into macro and micronutrient intake and what type of monitoring or tools are available in that respect. So also a strong and new development in that respect. Now, for the practical items, I would highlight you some of the items. Above me, you can see a line where you can address any questions throughout the conference. And it's a great pleasure to interact in that way via that functionality. And we also have a chat functionality. So in the chat, you can also direct questions or even ask questions in the group of participants. Now, further note, the meeting will be recorded. And there's, of course, additional information in the TMNL Expo Rangaku platform and at our Foodvalley website. So please, be aware of that. Look for the interaction also in the chat, and happy to address the questions you might have throughout the day. So that is, as a starting point. Herewith, we started with setting the scene on this topic. We will address also a topic of science to business with a bit more scientific background. Then it's nice to also have participation with company pitches, a few pitches that take place. And at the end, there's inspiration with future outlook, but also elite athletes that will be here. Olympic champion Mark Huizinga and elite soccer player Mike Havenaar from Japan will be participating in that. So that's a great asset also for today's program. Now, and then around 11, we will wrap up. So with that, I think we are started. And it's a great pleasure to facilitate in the interaction between the Netherlands and Japan via this platform, and also dive in the topic of personalized nutrition. And in that interaction with Japan, as I said, it is great to work and collaborate also with the Dutch embassy in Tokyo. And therefore, it's a great honor for me to introduce you to the Dutch ambassador in Japan, Mr. Peter van der Vliet. And we see him on screen now. Welcome, Peter, Mr. van der Vliet. Thank you very much, and wonderful to have you over. I would herewith like to give you the floor for some introductory words. Great to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jeroen, and welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to say a few opening words at this online event on personalized nutrition here from the Embassy Studio in Tokyo. Now, this program is part of the TMNL Tokyo Expo, which is a digital platform where Dutch companies and stakeholders can meet up with their Japanese counterparts to explore opportunities for business, for cooperation. So check out tmnltokyoexpo.com for further information on programming and content in the coming months. There's a lot going on this week on TMNL Tokyo Expo in the field of agri and food. Earlier this week, we had a very interesting program on the role of robotics and artificial intelligence in agriculture. And today, with less than 1 month to go until the start of the Olympics, we will focus on personalized nutrition. And experts and athletes will share their insights with us. Now, as an amateur sports practitioner myself, I have always been fascinated by the 3 crucial factors for success in sports. And the first factor is, of course, practice, hours and hours of training practice and also competition. If you want to know more about the importance of practice, and not only in sports for that matter, read the bestseller Outliers, the Story of Success by Malcolm Gladwell. The second factor for success in sports is rest and recovery. And the Dutch participants among us will remember the Dutch professional cyclist Joop Zoetemelk, who famously said that the Tour de France is won in bed. So that goes to the importance of rest and recuperation. And the third factor for success in sports is, and there we have it, a healthy diet and personalized nutrition. And that's the subject of today. I will listen myself with the utmost attention because this factor, nutrition, is my own weak spot and my vice, if you will, because I just love French fries, mayonnaise, chips, and Coca-Cola. So not smart at all if you want to perform at your best in sports. The Netherlands and Japan really know how to find each other and cooperate in the field of food. And we have Kikkoman and Yakult that have been producing in the Netherlands for many years and participate in joint innovation projects. Recently, Meiji decided to come to the Netherlands as well. And many of these Japanese companies are a member of Foodvalley, as you said, Jeroen. And Foodvalley is the organizer of today's event. So thank you, Foodvalley. Thank you, co-sponsors. And thank you all for being here today. And let's proceed with the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. And great to hear your personal story about nutrition and your sports activities. And as was indicated, and you indicated also in the preparation, very active in sports, endurance sports, as I was informed. So great to think along those lines of the nutritional programs, also in that. And of course, in the interaction between Japan and the Netherlands. And thank you again for your words and facilitating in the interaction here today also. Thank you. And with that, it is also very nice to further look into the scientific type of collaborations between us. And for that, it's a pleasure that also the NARO, the National Agricultural Research Organization of Japan, is a proud member of Foodvalley and also is involved in a lot of the research taking place at the Japanese facilities. And that we have Dr. Kotu here as a representative in the Netherlands. What is also nice is to look into the strategy of the NARO. And the NARO strategy will be further outlined by the president of NARO, Dr. Katsuo Kuma. And he will now provide us some insights in the activities at NARO. It's a pleasure to present its presentation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Kazuo Kuma, President of NARO, the National Agriculture and Food Research Organization. Today, I'd like to introduce NARO's fifth strategic R&D 5-year plan, starting from April 2021. First, I'll show you the profile of NARO. NARO is the largest and the only national agricultural research institute in Japan, with more than 3,300 full-time employees. Our headquarters are located in Tsukuba, with our R&D sites spread across Japan. This slide shows examples of our research products in breeding and food sciences, smart agriculture, biotechnology, and environmental sciences. Many of our research products are practically used in Japan. These are NARO's objectives. NARO has set goals to realize Society 5.0 in the agriculture and food sectors. To this end, NARO is engaged in scientific and technological innovation for ensuring the stable supply of food and agricultural products and improving self-sufficiency of food. Second, strengthening the global competitiveness of Japan's agriculture and food industry to support economic growth. Third, improving agricultural productivity while conserving the global environment. These objectives are consistent with the Japan's government policy, which aims to raise farm export to 5 trillion yen and become a carbon-neutral society by 2050, according to the Prime Minister Suga's policy speech, as well as a strategy for sustainable food systems formulated by Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries. Here, I outline the concept of Society 5.0. Society 5.0 was proposed in the fifth Science and Technology Basic Plan as a future society that Japan should aspire to be. This concept aims to make use of ICT and digital technologies, which have developed dramatically in recent years, to generate new values by integrating physical and cyber spaces that not only achieve economic development, but also resolve social problems, ultimately creating a high-quality human-centric society. The purpose of Society 5.0 matches the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. In the sixth Science and Technology Basic Plan, formulated in March 2021, realization of Society 5.0 is centerpiece. NARO has started the fifth strategic R&D plan in April this year. In this plan, NARO aims innovations that have an impact both on industrial society by producing outstanding results from basic to applied research under clear strategy. The strategic R&D plan has 4 pillars. The first pillar is agri-food business, wherein research is conducted close to the downstream food chain. The second is smart production systems. Smart agricultural technology will be developed for improving productivity. The third is agri-biosystems, aiming to create new bio-industries through integrating bio and AI technologies. The last is robust agricultural systems, technologies that achieve farm productivity while conserving the environment will be developed. In addition to these, we have established the core technology research headquarters to strengthen our basic technologies. This slide shows an overview of the core technology research headquarters. The research centers for agricultural information technology, agricultural robotics, advanced analysis, and genetic resources are connected through the agricultural information research infrastructure to accelerate R&D. These are examples of research subjects at CTRH. The left panel shows the ultra-precision farming research, which includes ultra-precise cyber cultivation tests and ultra-speed breeding. Agricultural robotics research promotes the just-in-time and quality production in greenhouse cultivation, and the precision farming technologies based on the real-time sensing and controlling the soil health. Over the next 5 years, NARO will strongly conduct the Moonshot R&D program to create disruptive innovation. In particular, NARO will focus on the 3 pillars of robust agriculture, biodiversity utilization, and environmental conservation, and eliminating food loss and waste towards the achievement of both increase in food production and environmental conservation globally. Here are some examples of the Moonshot projects. Upper left panel illustrates the AI-based designing of new crops that can withstand harsh environments, such as soil stress, using wild plant genomes information. Upper right shows our aim for zero insecticide agriculture by utilizing optical technologies and natural enemies. The lower panel show our ongoing projects on reduction of GHG emissions. In order to reduce N2O and CH4 emissions by 80% while improving farm productivity, microbiome control technology in agricultural soil and rumen will be developed. Now, I introduce NARRO's activity in the field of food for health. NARRO has led domestic research in the field of food for health by elucidating the functional components in food and by developing functional crop cultivars. Many commercial functional food products are developed based on our results. NARRO has also designed the NARRO Style Bento, a lunch box packed with functional foods that helps in reducing visceral fat. This is a food-on-demand project aiming to achieve both health maintenance and good taste. We will develop a system comprised of AI which design food to suit individual health conditions and taste, and a 3D printer for on-demand processing. Now I close my talk. I hope that this symposium will deepen the cooperation between the Netherlands and Japan in food and health. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Kuma, and great to hear the strategy from the Japan research side on this, and especially the topic of Society 5.0, to address those multiple aspects in that respect. While Dr. Katsu is here at the table, it's a pleasure to learn from your organization about the activities. Are there any specific items you address specifically in the interaction between the Netherlands and Japan?
Yes, thank you for asking, Jeroen. Yeah, my name is Dr. Kazuhisa Goto. I'm a liaison scientist of NARRO, based in Wageningen University Research. So we are now focusing on to promoting data-driven agriculture, or creating smart food value chain research. So, for example, last year, we succeeded in setting up a new research project with Wageningen University Research. That team is focusing on data-driven agriculture for potato farming. And this project also involving Dutch and Japanese companies. Yeah, that is a nice example. And also, we are focusing on food and health research as well. So one of our managing director of Food Research Institutes in NARRO will provide the latest research result in this event. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Katsu, and great to hear about that new development.
Yeah.
And also you see that the health proposition is coming really from the primary production also to bring that into the value chain. So yes. Great to learn about that. And in a moment we will hear Dr. Kabori, your colleague, also focusing a bit more on food and health. And now I'm going to make a bad joke, but I want to make it anyway. This is our go-to Kai into Japanese-Dutch interaction. Yes. Great to have you, Katsu, and thank you for your answers here. Oui, people, linguistic joke here. Anyway, it's a pleasure to introduce you also to Judith van der Horst, my colleague working on food and health, innovation lead in that field. And you are diving in that topic of personalized nutrition, Judith. Can you guide us along that and explain a bit more about it?
Yeah, sure, I will do, Jeroen. Thanks for the invitation. So I lead the food and health program for Foodvalley NL. And one of the initiatives that we started specifically focusing on personalized nutrition is coming from a global gap analysis that we did do. So approximately a year ago, we started on this food and health program. And then we made a kind of global landscaping analysis of what's going on in this field of food and health. And one of the really remarkable things was that we need to make much more use of the digitalization and the opportunities that digitalization will bring us. So make use of artificial intelligence, but also personalized nutrition was definitely coming up all around the globe. But we also saw some hurdles or hiccups that needs to be solved before we can accelerate on personalized nutrition. So one of the things that we figured out that there's a lack of consensus on the definition of personalized nutrition. So there are some scientifically agreed definitions, but there's no real consensus. And if we would have that, that would really help in having smooth conversations, because then we don't need to explain to each other what we mean with personalized nutrition. There was also a lack of insights on what are proper business models on personalized nutrition. How can we make money on personalized nutrition, especially for companies? That's very important. But also what is, and maybe that's more for you, working at the university, what is the minimum scientific evidence that we need to have when we can talk about personalized nutrition? Like our branded candies with your name on it, that's nutrition, it's personalized. Is that personalized nutrition? Well, maybe not per se what we mean with personalized nutrition. So what's the minimum bottom of scientific evidence? So this is all listed, the kind of gaps. And then we thought as Foodvalley, okay, we take the initiative to start a global position paper where we invite all companies, organizations, research institutes to join in a joint effort that we will orchestrate from Foodvalley to have a position paper, so that we have a joint definition of what we mean with personalized nutrition, and that we write a paragraph on what are profitable business models, or what is the minimum scientific evidence, but also legal constraints that we need to solve. If we talk Japan, Netherlands, it's completely different laws that we need to rule. So how do we do that if you work internationally? So these kind of topics will be addressed in this position paper.
Wonderful. Yeah, great to hear that step. And we did not start with the definition of personalized nutrition right away, because in the symposium here, you will also see that it's sometimes target group nutrition, addressing a certain target group, and sometimes really at the individual level and using data.
Yeah.
We see quite a lot of interaction with companies in that position paper and in this activity, Judith. How can companies interact? How can they embark upon this?
Yeah. That's indeed very much possible. And that's actually a call to action for everybody who think, well, that might be interesting for me to join this position paper. It's an initiative that has just been kicked off. So 40 companies, institutes, also Wageningen University with your affiliation is involved in this. Also Papendal Sports Center is involved in this, but also companies from Japan are involved, but also even much more welcome. So for all the listeners, please send an email to me. You can find my email address, or it is at the slides at the left upper bottom, or you can find it at the Foodvalley website. Send an email to me, because you can definitely support this position paper, and because we will have a huge supporter group for all those organizations and institutes who are behind this position paper and just sign it off with your name of your company, your affiliation, so that we can use it and also make global impact. Because this is just step one, this position paper.
Definitely, and it definitely helps in setting terminology right, and also defining those gaps that are there. And also directly involve companies that are active in this field, as well as research. So greatly appreciate that you did this action. Yeah. And now the call for action is clear. Participation is open.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, we also hear examples of companies today. So we will all dive into this topic and stimulate that further development in that area. And the fun thing for Judith, I guess, is that is all driven towards a healthy, more sustainable diet. Correct?
Exactly. Yeah, because in the end, we want to reduce obesity. We want to overcome malnutrition. So this position paper is just step one. We want to build a personalized nutrition community from Foodvalley, so that we can take global initiatives on innovation, on new research, on find investors, so that we can speed up on personalized nutrition to boost health. That's the overall objective.
Thank you very much, Judith, and great initiative, and wonderful to further work on that. So please reach out when you see any connections to this topic, and definitely further steps in development. Thank you very much. And what I would like to do now is to share some words on the specific item of sports and nutrition, because within the field of personalized nutrition, sports and nutrition set a very nice example of personalized nutrition. And as I said, here working at the Olympic training facilities of Papendal, I'm involved in the sports and nutrition innovation activities on a day-to-day basis. And therefore, it is a pleasure to share with you some slides on that, to also specifically dive into that sports field. And of course, like Mr. Ambassador Peter van der Vliet already indicated, that it's only 1 month ahead of us, 4 weeks and a day, as we just passed its sign, which is counting down here at Papendal in the days to come to the Olympics. And one of the initiatives we have been exploring already for a long time, started in 2014, is E2Move, which is an innovation hub for sports and nutrition. And especially in the Japanese setting, it's also nice to highlight this as an example of a public-private partnership in which a lot of various organizations collaborate. Research, academia, and higher education is involved. Also companies are involved, and also the sports practice is involved. But also a hospital, looking at examples of where sports nutrition can also be functional in a patient setting. And that is also highlighted here, looking into optimal nutrition from elite sports to movement, amateur activity, or a regular person, but also in a care situation. And what type of physical activity is there still possible? So that combination is facilitated by E2Move, and that's basically consisting of a hatchery for new ideas in sports and nutrition. And we see a lot of food products here in this scheme, but I would like to pinpoint your attention to the center part of that, in which it's indicating an app. It's the Papendal Nutrition app. And for all athletes practicing here in Papendal, preparing for the Olympics, that's about 500 sports people in various disciplines, we have set up a system in which the food intake is monitored at the cash registration, and that information on the products that are being consumed by the athletes, it's directly converted into their nutritional data, macronutrient composition, micronutrient composition, and also the timing of their food intake. And that's all facilitated via that personalized app that is providing information for them. It's a learning tool. It's also a lot of young talent athletes that are here, so that they start to understand what the benefits of nutrition and the food intake is. And the dietitians that are also involved in this system can assist the athletes in it. And it's a very nice example of, let's say, personalized nutrition for this specific target group that are driven to deliver most of the results in their sports activities, and also, as indicated earlier, also see the benefit of nutrition in that processes. That brings me to some developments in that area, and of course we will hear a bit more about it on biomarkers, how to analyze the nutritional status, and we see a lot of developments in there. On the other hand, we see a lot of developments in products and ingredients, and especially the topic of proteins generates a lot of attention these days, especially also the balance between animal-based proteins or maybe plant-based proteins, and how to utilize these various protein sources also. And that combines again to dietary advice, and by that a sort of circle exists in which the dietary advice is given to athletes in this case, which is personalized, but can also be assisted by the analysis of biomarkers. And that, of course, results in the choice of products and ingredients. So that is a nice setup, and a lot of new developments which we hear upon today also. And there the terminology of personalized nutrition, NS1, supported by a lot of data, is a key aspect to it. And it's a pleasure to work on this topic and bring that along. So that ends this part of the presentation. And in that respect, it is again very nice to make the connection to Japan again, because now I would like to introduce you to Dr. Suzuki, who is involved in university research, but next to that is also the head of the Sports Dietitian Society of Japan. And Dr. Suzuki is also involved in the program of nutrition that is offered at the Olympic Games that are upcoming in next month, and all the foods that are supplied at the, let's say, restaurant of the Olympic Games. And with the athletes later on, we will also discuss a bit about that. So with that, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Shikoto Suzuki, and listen to her presentation on the aspect of sports dietitian activities. Herewith.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here today. I'm Shihoko Suzuki, the chairperson of the Sports Nutrition and Dietitian Japan, which we call SNDJ. I'm also a registered dietitian, JSPO Sports Dietitian, professor at Kanagawa University of Human Services. My specialty is sports nutrition, and I have been providing nutrition support for athlete and professional teams. I'm also the vice chair of the Olympic Village Menu Advisory Committee of the Tokyo 2020 Organizing Committee and a member of the Japan Paralympic Committee Women's Sports Committee. Now, I'm going to talk about sport nutrition in Japan, but I'm not good at English, so I'll speak in Japanese. Please see the subtitles for English. 皆さん、スポーツ栄養についてご存知でしょうか？スポーツ栄養とは、運動やスポーツによって身体活動量が多い人に対して必要な栄養学的理論、知識、スキルを体系化したものであると日本では定義されています。私は SNDJ を設立するにあたり、スポーツ栄養をより健康に自分の思い通りに生きるための栄養学と言い換えて説明しています。スポーツ栄養の対象者は、アスリートやスポーツ愛好家だけではなく、職業として体を使う方、働き盛りの方、健康長寿を目指す高齢の方、勉強に打ち込む受験生、子どもたちまで、すべての生活者と言っても過言ではありません。公認スポーツ栄養士とは、スポーツ栄養の専門職として、公益社団法人日本栄養士会と公益財団法人日本スポーツ協会の共同認定による資格です。2008年6月より養成を開始し、2020年10月現在、415名の公認スポーツ栄養士が活動しています。日本では公認スポーツ栄養士という専門教育を受けた管理栄養士がトップアスリートの栄養サポートを行うことが多くなりました。公認スポーツ栄養士は身体活動の増加によって起こる体内の変化に対し、エネルギーや栄養素の必要量、シーンやライフスタイルに合わせた食事内容、摂取タイミング、サプリメントの活用など、栄養学の観点からエビデンスを個人にアレンジした栄養管理を行います。この栄養管理をより効果的で効率よく実施するための栄養管理システムがスポーツ栄養マネジメントです。実際私は2008年の北京オリンピックで女子ソフトボール日本代表の栄養サポートを担当し、スポーツ栄養マネジメントを用いて金メダル獲得につなげました。選手までにおけるアスリートへの食事の提供について、詳細はスライドに示す通りですが、4つのポイントがあります。1つ目は、アスリートのニーズに即した食の提供です。2つ目は、世界各国に対応した食の充実です。このポイントを大変重要視しています。オリンピック・パラリンピック終了後、世界各国の選手やスタッフから自国と同じように食事することができたが、私たち開催国側の最も嬉しい褒め言葉です。3つ目は、きめ細かな対応です。4つ目は、包括的な安全の確保です。特に湿度の高い暑熱環境下での熱中症には注意が必要です。私たちはこのスポーツ栄養学をアスリートだけではなく、 一般生活者へ普及させるために、2018年に SNDJ を創設しました。SNDJ では、より健康に自分の思い通りに生きるために、スポーツ栄養学を活用して、パフォーマンスを栄養でマネジメントすることが可能になると提唱しています。ぜひ、オランダの皆様にも、栄養をマネジメントすることにより、パフォーマンスを上げようという考え方を食生活に取り入れていただき、健康づくりだけではなく、活力に満ちた人生を楽しんでほしいと願っています。Thank you so much for your attention. ありがとうございました。
And thank you, Dr. Shioko Suzuki. That was great to hear about the developments at the Sports Nutrition and Dietitian Japan Society, and also the preparations of the Olympics. And of course, you see that there's a lot of items to choose from for the athletes at the large Olympic Village and the restaurant there. And also some guidance is provided, but also, well, the self-education of athletes is important in that respect. And the fun thing is, there's also some topics we definitely resemble here in the Netherlands and see also, for example, the hydration topics, especially as the conditions in Tokyo will be very warm and humid and hot. So it's crucial to think about the drinking plans in that respect also. And the one specific item also with Dr. Suzuki we discussed prior to the event is her interest in dietitian and the diets for wheelchair-bound staff and people, especially for basketball. And that is also a topic here at the Olympic training facilities, which of course is oriented to nutrition for athletes, but also has a much wider use to look in that for anyone basically wheelchair bound, for example. So very nice to have those topics being addressed as well. So thank you, Dr. Suzuki, and great to learn about the upcoming Olympics and the sports activities. And with that, I would like to make a next step, this part of the introduction, to the science and business we are embarking upon. And it's a pleasure to introduce you to Renger Witkamp here. As I said, professor in nutritional biology at Wageningen University, also involved in Eat to Move as the chairman of the steering committee. And you will guide us along in some new developments in personalized nutrition. Renger?
Thank you, Jeroen. Yeah. Well, good afternoon and good morning to you all. What I would like to do in 10 minutes is just guide you through some ideas, some concepts in personalized nutrition. It's a very different story from what you've heard so far. Yeah. So to start with, the slide doesn't work. Oh, yeah. A very important point I would like to make that, let's say 15 to 20 years ago, when we were talking about personalized nutrition, it was all about DNA. It was, okay, make a swab and send in your sample, have your DNA sequenced, and then we will give you an advice what to eat or not to eat. Well, in the meantime, we know far better. What we do now know is that it's the phenotype. So it's not just your genes, it's the way you live, the status you're in, your age, all together, what determines how much and what you should eat. And that also has another aspect, which is health. So how can you determine whether you're healthy or not, or whether you can improve your health? And I will say it's easier to say you're sick than to say how healthy you are. So that's the, let's say, the basic message of my talk. So first, the question to yourself, you address that question yourself, obviously, a lot, I can imagine, am I healthy or not? Or let's say, how healthy am I? Well, one thing is sure, health is multidimensional, which means that you can be physically healthy, but mentally not healthy. So it's also not strictly defined. What we call health here could be not that healthy. It depends on your age. It's dynamic. And that's a very important point. It's time dependent. I can be very healthy today. I can be diseased tomorrow. I don't know. There are many factors. You can feel healthy, but according to the book, you may not be healthy, but still feel healthy. And so it's perceived personally. So this is a very conceptual slide I will guide you through. It's your lifeline, basically. and it depicts your functional capacity. And what you see, your health, all systems go up and down. So if you would be a car, you would put it on cruise control. You would say, I maintain speed at 18 kilometers an hour. At the same time, it depends very much what your motor is doing. Well, it's like your body. So your body, your physiology, that's called homeostasis, is able to stay within limits. So a kind of bandwidth, as we call it. But it might be that during a disease, that's the upper line, that you're getting out of control for a while, but you are able to recover and you go back to your original state. But at a certain moment in your life, it may go down. And then things may change as well. You can deteriorate. That means that your health is going down further. But it could also be that you, let's say, reach a stable situation, which means, well, for example, healthy aging. At the same time, it could also be, and that's also one thing that we study here, is that during disease, and we say, well, Jeroen already mentioned, we're looking at patients and athletes, and there's a lot of resemblance between patients. There's a lot of resemblance between, for example, overtraining. So then you may end up in a situation when things become worse and worse, and then finally your health is declining rapidly. So this was the definition, and it's still the definition of the WHO, the World Health Organization, which, let's say, stated health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease of infirmity. That's a good definition, because it says, well, being healthy is not the same as not being ill. However, from a physiological point of view, we are increasingly using a concept like the ability to adapt. So the ability to deal with your environment, with your physical environment, your social environment, and your psychological, and even your economical environment. But the question is that's depicted in this slide. When you're born, let's say your adaptability, your resilience is small. You are completely dependent on your environment. And when you're in the end of your life old, the same situation. And in between, there is resilience. So the question is, can we measure resilience and can we improve resilience? And it's all about dynamics. An interesting development is, and that's very recent, this is a famous publication from this year, that people are now, let's say, increasingly becoming aware that we have symptoms of health. And that sounds strange because in the past it was all about disease. It's easy to say, well, you're sick today because you don't feel well, your temperature is elevated. But there's also something like active processes in our life, in our body, that maintain health, that defends us. And the question is, okay, what can we learn from them and how can we stimulate specifically health? So this is a kind of strange example, but a very nice one. I did a study on myself, and I don't know if you're aware of this system. It's a glucose meter, so it's a new development. Well, it exists a few years now. And I'm a physiologist partly, so I'd like to play with this. And so what I did, I implanted this chip. It's a chip you implanted in your arm, and you can measure your glucose. And what I did in these two situations, I did a so-called oral glucose tolerance test. So I took 90 grams of glucose. And what you see then, your glucose levels go up. That's the peak. But I have no diabetes because this machine is mainly used by diabetics, but you can also use it in sports. Your glucose is going up, and after a while, I start to secrete insulin. That's for the physiologist amongst you, and then my glucose is going down. The second picture is I did exactly the same, but the day before I ate a low-carb diet, and I took my bike, and I think I cycled for 100 kilometers, which is for most of you nothing, but for me it's quite something. And what you see that my response is completely different. So by this kind of simple machine, and well, we will hear more about it, what you can measure. And I think that's one of the developments, measure more. Use sensors, use electronic devices, use technological development to grasp your health and your flexibility, because this is metabolic flexibility, basically. Now, this is a completely different setting. A very important process in your life is your gut barrier. So your intestinal tract, and you've obviously learned about the microbiota, the microorganisms in your gut, and we need to keep them out. At the same time, we need to take up nutrients. So the barrier in your gut is very important. That the opposite is so-called leaky gut. Well, when you do strenuous exercise, then what happens is that your gut, your intestinal wall gets more permeable. That means that compounds or bacteria can go into your body, which can have negative outcomes. And what we did in this experimental setting, we had people exercising. We put them on a bicycle ergometer, as you can see. And on the left panel, you see that when we give these people a certain protein, in this case it's a protein from peanut, RH6, it's the one that provokes an allergic response in people, and you get nothing in your blood because you have a flat line. After exercising, you get a big peak. So what means that after exercising, these people absorbed, so took it from the gut and got it into blood. This could be that if you are allergic then, or that even if you are not known to be allergic, that you all of a sudden develop a so-called allergic response, which will also could happen during a marathon. So we say people after running a marathon take your protein. However, we also know something about an anaphylaxis, exercise-induced anaphylaxis. And this is one of the underlying. So by stressing the organism, let's say stressing the person, so doing something, we can measure dynamics, because health is all about dynamics. Well, what we increasingly want to do, actually already doing, is go outside the lab. And we will have a presentation of One Planet later. I think especially the right panel is very interesting. That's the so-called Neurocast app. And we use it there for psychological performance and alertness. So what this app is doing, it's just monitoring how you are dealing with your mobile. So, for example, how often do you mistype? Do you make any other mistakes? And we use it, for example, in patients, multiple sclerosis, but you can also use it in military, you can use it in athletes. So it basically measures your capability to focus, for example. Well, on the left side, you see the very famous watches that we use, and actually I've also one. So to summarize, and I have just 10 minutes, but to summarize, it's important that we are able to measure our phenotype. So the person we are, our environment, and our response to the environment. So that's very important. So what we do as scientists, we want to increasingly go out of the lab. We want to measure dynamics. We want to give people sensors. And, well, we can also feed back the information directly to the person, also to the athlete, for example. And he or she knows, okay, can I train again? How is my health at this very moment? So with that, I would like to close, and I hope at least I'll have been able to give you some insight and some ideas about how we look at personalized nutrition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Renger. Wonderful to hear your insights on this, and also especially the aspect of ability to adapt. And I was just listening to this, also intrigued by that. Are there any biomarkers that you would say, hey, these are good representatives of a good ability to adapt? Are you looking into that?
Well, basically what we would like to do is measure more biomarkers. And that's the difference with disease. In disease, sometimes one biomarker is enough. If you have fever, it's clear you're ill. But biomarkers of health actually would require to develop multiple biomarkers. So that's why I'm so enthusiastic about electronic devices, because you get a complete picture. So it's all getting towards, and actually that's also what Judith already stated, we are going to big data analysis. And we have the technology at the moment. So it's a matter of time, actually. They are already existing. So in the end, you will get a picture of health composed of different biomarkers. And at one moment, it could be blood glucose. The next time, it could be temperature. So it's the combination and the integration which gives you the picture of health, the fingerprint of health.
Wonderful. And then we will hear about that also later with Chris van Hoof from IMEC. And of course, those watches.
Yeah.
What do you think those will deliver in future?
Yeah, well, my watch gives me an indicator of sleep quality. Well, we're now discussing with somnologists, that's how people are. Well, restoration also in sports is very important. So try to grasp what is sleep quality and how to monitor. And also, I think it also helps people to give them idea, okay, I'm doing okay. Because, well, the old-fashioned way is to just weigh body weight. Oh, your body weight is going up and down. So to be able to give you a precise indication, directly feedback, will also motivate people to behave more healthy.
Yeah, that is wonderful. With the dynamics of measurements, also try to see whether behavior can be stimulated in a nice direction. Also, like Judith indicated. Thank you very much, Renger. A pleasure to hear your thoughts and insights on this. Now, I just understood there will be a little change in the program. And we will not directly go to Dr. Kobori at this time point. Unfortunately, there's a mishap with the connection, so the NARO presentation will come up later. And we are now happy to start with one of the pitches from the company pitches part. And that's a fun aspect, of course, also. And hearing shortly about new developments in that area and from various companies. And it's a pleasure to start with a topic which is covered by Protifarm. And Protifarm is fully diving into insect products and also insect proteins. And it's a pleasure to introduce you to Pablo Peña here at the digital format. Pablo is replacing Tom Moorman, the CEO of Protifarm, because of a change in schedule. But Pablo, a pleasure to have you. And wonderful if you could start your pitch on the activities of Protifarm, on the proteins, and also a little connection to sports in that respect. Welcome.
Absolutely. Hope you can hear me correctly.
We do.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you, and good morning, everybody, and good afternoon in Japan. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to join you all, and happy to do this. So let's jump straight into it. The reason we're here and the reason why Protifarm is here is because of some very, very big challenges that are just around the corner, and in fact are already here in the world. Very, very big changes for which we have found a very small solution, insects. But what are these challenges? Well, we need to start from the realization that we need to start eating more effectively, starting today. Moving forward towards 2050, so in the next just under 30 years, we're going to see the following challenges. We're going to see that pollution is going to continue to rise, mostly due to food production. We are exhausting our resources. Again, we're going to have a reduction in arable land because of constant food production. And we have a population that is continuously growing, and we are expected to hit 10 billion people by 2050. What do we do to solve this? Well, we have one small solution, as I mentioned, and our solution is the buffalo larvae. It's this tiny, tiny worm that grows into a nice beetle. Why do we use it? What does it do? Well, it requires very, very low water to breed it. It barely emits any greenhouse gases in the breeding process. And we barely take up any land space by breeding this because we breed based on vertical farming principles. And then on top of that, we know from all our research that this larva is extremely efficient in converting feed into usable protein. So our little friend here, the buffalo larva, is our way, our vector to basically reach our mission, Protifarm's mission, which is feeding the world without consuming the earth, which is what we all need right now. And the way that we do this is through our ingredients, which is the world's first functional food ingredient range, completely made from insects. As you see here, a small overview of what we have to offer. We have in texture protein, we have whole buffalo powder, we have protein concentrate, we create fiber powders, and we have insect oil as well. But more specifically, diving a little deeper, why, besides the solutions to the challenges that I just mentioned, what does the buffalo worm actually do as well? Well, the buffalo worm, scientifically known as Alphitopius diaperinus, is actually a tiny nutritional powerhouse. It is naturally high in protein. It is a complete protein source, and I will speak on this a little more later. It is naturally high in minerals, naturally high in vitamins. It is a source of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, and it is high in fiber. All of this, for such a tiny creature, it fits right between your fingertips. And obviously, you need loads of them, so you need very efficient breeding techniques to have enough of them. So how do we incorporate these insects into performance nutrition? Where does it all tie in? How do we get sports nutrition benefits from our tiny friends? Well, the way you do that is actually just like any other protein source. As you can see here, all of these recognizable sports nutrition products that you see: protein bars, protein powders, protein-infused granolas, mixes for bread and other cereals, high-protein pasta. All of these products that you're seeing right now, they're developed with our ingredients. So you can see here that they're basically usable just like any other protein, with a small twist. It's not like any other protein, not quite yet. Because what we have seen in all the research that is being carried out is that we also have other benefits for healthy performance. For example, we are seeing more and more studies coming through that chitin, which is the exoskeleton part of our larva, has a prebiotic effect on gut health. It also has, in some rat studies that have been carried out recently, we're also seeing a cholesterol lowering effect. So it has positive cardiovascular health. And more specifically to the topic of today, in terms of performance, when we're talking about protein performance as well, we have some very, very exciting results that have just come out in a brand new study by the Maastricht University. Just go to the next slide here. Yes. There we go. This study was just released by Maastricht University, carried out by Dr. Luc van Loon. It's an in vivo human metabolic research of innovative nutrition, and he has concluded through his research that the protein in Aphytophilus diaporinus is comparable on a 1-to-1 ratio to high quality milk protein. What does that mean? Well, as I mentioned previously, our protein has a complete amino acid profile. It is highly digestible and bioavailable, and it performs just as well as what we take as the golden standard, which is the milk protein or whey protein. We can provide you all with a link to the publication. But this is very exciting for us because it proves what we have been saying, that not only do our products have sustainability benefits, but we also have actual performance benefits. And we encourage everyone to try them. Diving a little bit deeper into why would you choose as well? Huh? We have this is the performance side of things, but we also have done extensive market research onto what drives people to make certain choices in the products that they consume. And certainly within sports nutrition, people can be very, very picky, and they want the best of the best. So what do people actually expect from their nutrition? Well, our research has shown that consumers expect two major things. One is high quality. Of course, the quality of the protein that you ingest has a direct effect on how digestible is it and how bioavailable is it. Is it going to give you the recovery, especially in terms of nutrition, that you need as an athlete? And the second driver is the sustainability part. We are seeing now an increase in awareness from consumers as to what is the environmental impact of the products that they consume. And this is where insect nutrition comes into play with some very, very attractive properties, which we're saying we offer a solution for performance and sustainability. And we do this because we're able to do two things that up until now were basically split right down the middle. On the one hand, you have your dairy proteins and general other animal proteins. And on the other hand, you have your plant-based proteins. And they both have great things about them and some not so great things about them. So on the side of dairy protein, it comes from a dairy industry, it comes from cattle farming. We know that that's not very sustainable. It has a high environmental impact. However, it is the golden standard in terms of protein quality. And more specifically, if you consume other meat products as a protein source, they usually tend to have B12 and iron content, which are all added benefits. On the other hand, we have the plant-based protein, which is a lot more sustainable than cattle farming or any other type of animal farming. However, it's not very efficient in the yield. And what we mean by this is that you need an extremely high amount of substrate or feed in order to convert that into protein efficiently. And on the other hand, there's also the fact that most plant-based proteins are not a complete source of protein, so you always need to mix and match in order to create a complete amino acid profile. And further down the line, of course, it's a much lower to non-existent content of B12 and iron. And this is where insect protein comes in. Right down the middle, we know that we are able to carry out our operations sustainably. We know that the protein quality is high, as the University of Maastricht has shown. And our small friends are a natural source of B12 and iron. So to summarize what we just talked about, why is it interesting to think about insect protein? From a market perspective, consumers are increasingly demanding more and more. They want what's best for them and what's best for the world. And so what we want to do is bring alternatives we want to bring innovation into the market, and we want to stay ahead of the curve. And more specifically, we know that there's going to be an increasing demand for alternative proteins in the coming few years, resulting into a huge market, which it already is, and it's only going to continue increasing. So if you take home one message from me today, what I would like to ask you all is to join our journey in feeding the world without consuming the earth. Thank you very much all for your time. Thank you for inviting me to speak. And I would be so happy to take some questions, or if you have further comments or would like to connect at a later time, I'm fully available. I will be so happy to speak to anyone that is interested in joining this journey with us.
Wonderful, Pablo. Thank you very much for your explanation in this new exciting topic of insect products and insect proteins mainly. So wonderful also to see the research you are embarking upon. From the chat and the questions in the audience, we received the question how you would see the connection for the Japanese market to this, and whether you are looking for specific partners in that respect. Could you briefly comment on that?
Yeah, so we don't have a ton of experience within the Japanese market. Even more so, we are actively looking for partners to help establish ourselves in Japan. So we're completely open. It is an unknown market to us. This is why this opportunity to speak here is so wonderful, because that is exactly what we want to do.
Yeah, perfect. And then the last little question on food applications, type of products. Where would you think the most easy entrance would be?
Well, very specifically to the topic of today, I'm talking about athletes, as I mentioned. The most obvious application would be in sports nutrition products, such as protein bars and protein shakes, which we already have, and we already have here in the market in Europe. But we are also currently working on even further developing our insect protein concentrate ingredient, which we are hoping is going to compete against even whey proteins and caseinates on the market. So those are the two most obvious. Further on, I showed one example during the presentation as well, which you can make high protein pastas with our whole buffalo powder. You can create meat alternatives with it, so you don't have to put meat in order in order to get the benefits of eating meat. So those are some of the applications.
Wonderful. Yeah, great to hear, Pablo. Thank you for your insights on this. And yeah, wonderful to see further developments also in this area, of course. Thank you. And meanwhile, yeah, thank you. We have been able to make the connection again to Japan in our activities going back and forward to the Netherlands and Japan. And it's a great pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Masuko Kobori, who is Director Food and Research Institute at NARO. And it's a great pleasure to see you, Dr. Kobori. And it was also an honor to meet you last year, 2019, it was even. So before that, in preparation of the actual event in Japan. But now you're digitally here. Great pleasure to welcome you. And it's very nice that you will specifically target the somewhat more senior consumer with the healthy aging perspective of that. And with that, I would like to give you the floor and provide the actions in this field from the NARO perspective. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for your introduction, Dr. Bontis. I'm sorry, I had a little trouble with the connection. So my name is Masuko Kobori from Institute of Food Research, National Agriculture and Food Research Organization. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Bontis for giving me this opportunity to give a talk in this session. So today, I'd like to talk about our research on the health function of agricultural products and the new research project called personalized diet for longevity and high quality of life. Japan is the most aging society in the world. The percentage of the population aged 65 and over has risen to 28.7% of the overall population, and it's predicted to increase further. Likewise, the population appears to be aging in the Netherlands as well, with the percentage of the older people being as much as 20%. However, in Japan, the difference between the healthy life expectancy and the average life expectancy is more than 8 years. Therefore, a healthy, delicious diet for longevity with high quality of life is desired. And the system of food with function claim was established in 2015 in Japan. Based on this system, food business operators can label their product with health function claim based on scientific evidence under their own responsibility. And this is different from the system of food for specified health use, or we call FOSHU. It was established back in 1991, as per which food business operators can label their product for specified health use following approval by the Consumer Affairs Agency. After the introduction of the FFC system, the market size expanded drastically. And all food products, including fresh produce, can be subject to be labeled under the FFC system. In 2019, fresh produce was occupied 4.3% of the market of FFC. And here I show you some examples of agricultural products subject to FFC. Our research has largely contributed to submit these products as FFC. For example, the health claim of citrus unshu is this food contained beta-glucans which reportedly maintain bone health by facilitating bone metabolism. For the FFC, the food product must be helpful or suitable for maintaining and promoting the health of people not suffering from any diseases. And the scientific evidence for the proposed function claim must be explained by clinical trials with a finished product or systematic literature reviews on a finished product or functional substance. And we have developed analytical method of functional food component and determine the lower limit of the concentration of this natural product and conducted systematic literature reviews or randomized controlled trials. Here I can show you an example of the study on the health function of agricultural products. Natto is a traditional Japanese food made from steamed soybean fermented with Bacillus subtilis, and is normally eaten with rice. It is characterized by its sticky and stringy texture. So you can see the thread of the sticky materials in the texture of natto. And the polygamma glutamic acid produced by bacteria during the fermentation is a major sticky material of natto. And Japan Public Health Center-based prospective study recently showed that the intake of natto was inversely associated with cardiovascular disease-related mortality in both sexes. And in our collaborative study, a company developed natto containing a high amount of polygamma glutamic acid. And we also developed a high accuracy method of quantifying polygamma glutamic acid content in natto. And we also saw that polygamma glutamic acid contained in natto reduced the postprandial blood glucose levels. And here I show you the result of a randomized crossover study on the effect of high polygamma glutamic acid natto on the postprandial blood glucose levels. A meal loading test was performed in healthy men and women with relatively high postprandial blood glucose levels. And as a result, concurrent consumption of high polygamma glutamic acid natto was effective in suppressing the increase in the postprandial blood glucose levels, especially during the early phase after eating within 45 minutes. And consequently, we are preparing the application to submit high polygamma glutamic acid natto as FFC. The agricultural product with health function can be used as ingredient of a personalized diet for increasing longevity and quality of life. For a personalized diet, we should consider the information of individuals, such as health conditions, shape, constituents such as health index, and genetic information, microbiome, and also food preference. We are conducting a research project on the utilization of the health function of food, including FFC. And more recently, we also have been started the research project on optimization for a well-balanced diet and on design and reduction of diet that suit the personal preference, aimed to realize the delicious and healthy personalized diet for longevity with a high quality of. Minor health-related complaints, such as stress, sleepiness, irritation, lethargy, and loss of appetite are not disease markers, but decrease performance and reduce labor productivity. In this study, the health data on dietary habits, sleep, stress, heart rate, blood constituent, genes, and good microbiota from 1,000 healthy volunteers have been collected. We are also collecting data on functional ingredient contents and constructing an integrated database with food, microbiome, and health information. And we are currently analyzing data to develop the evaluation method of the new functional food, which include minor health-related complaints. We also plan to create a personalized food recommendation service that used mild change in health status as an indicator. Diet imbalance increases the risk of lifestyle-related diseases and frailty, but less than 50% of people habitually eat a well-balanced diet in Japan. A well-balanced diet is fundamental to dietary life and necessary for maximization of food function to maintain our health. And therefore, we have just started a new project that aims to visualize dietary balance by non-invasive measurement of dietary metabolite excrete in urine and to develop a method to optimize the balance of a personalized diet. And we have also started a cross-ministerial moonshot agriculture, forestry, and fisheries research and development program last year. This is one of the 10 research and development projects to achieve a moonshot goal, which is attributed by the Council for Science, Technology, and Innovation Japan. We conduct a project entitled Development of Innovative Food Solutions for Simultaneous Food Loss Reduction and Quality of Control Improvement. In this project, we will develop a novel personal food production system that will reduce food loss of unused food materials and improve quality of life by generating food that take into account individual preference and health conditions. At our institute, we have recently published a new method to observe the fracture of soft food by time compression using soft machine equipped with a transparent artificial tongue. The transparent objects on this slide were artificial tongue, and green objects are food samples. A soft food samples were placed on the artificial tongue and compressed with a flat probe that analyze the texture. And now you can see the same gel was crushed with the young adult model tongue, but not by the frail elderly tongue model. Using appropriate artificial tongue, tongue crushable or mastication requiring food can be estimated. So this data can be used to design the texture of personalized food. In the Moonshot project, we use instrumental analysis method that we have developed, such as method using a transparent artificial tongue and biometrical techniques to acquire data on the taste and texture of food as it is actually consumed by humans. And then digitalize it into a dynamic and static pattern. Furthermore, by adding data on the release of aroma components, we will create a tastiness database that serves as the basis of the base for the structural design of food. The designing of personalized food can be done by selecting ingredients based on individual health information and adjusting the taste to suit individual preference. So with this method, would it be possible to create tasty, healthy, and personalized food? Okay. That's all of my talk. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Kobori, for this great insights in your research and especially focusing also on the elderly topic. And I was also especially intrigued by the food recommendation service you are developing with the data on the individuals you are analyzing. So thank you very much for that. Great that you could participate here online with us. And of course, we have the connection with the NARO activities also here at the table. So thank you very much. And it will be great to collaborate in new products and developments in that respect. Thank you. And then we'll move on to the company MCLS. And MCLS is Mitsubishi Corporate Life Sciences. Is a company that has, of course, a lot of activities in Japan, but also here in the Netherlands. And Marijn Lanting is here with us today. And Marijn will be presenting on the a new topic that is also relevant in that respect, is the probiotic/postbiotic type of topic. We heard about the gastrointestinal activity also. And he will share that with us. So I think we can now start his presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining this session. My name is Marijn, work for Mitsubishi Life Science Europe, and I'm responsible for the nutrition portfolio. And one of the products from that portfolio is the one I want to introduce you today, which is L137. All the way from Japan, and we're just introducing it right now to Europe. So quite a cool, exciting product, and let's get into it. What I'd like to talk about today is, first of all, what is L137? Then I really like to go into why it's been heat treated, because it's such a special feature of this product. How does it actually work? So the mechanism of action. I do want to dive a little deeper into one of the clinical studies that we have. And because I'm actually not here today, it's a pre-recording, I already prepared some frequently asked questions in a slide. So I hope those will answer most of the questions. If not, feel free to give me a call or email me after the presentation. Let's get going. So what is L137? So basically it's a preparation of heat-treated Lactobacillus plantarum that was isolated from fermented food. So what you see probably in the visual, that's actually nare sushi, so also referred to as Japan's original sushi. That's where it comes from, so all natural. Other than that, it's actually defined as an immunobiotic, or nowadays we have an umbrella definition called postbiotic that promotes a balanced immune system through a unique set of mechanisms. And I'll tell you about those mechanisms a little later. So it's very useful for maintaining immunocompetence within susceptible individuals, including athletes, also the elderly, and to be honest, everyone else. We've done a variety of clinical studies, human clinical studies. As said, I'll explain a little bit more about one in particular. I'll go into that a little bit later. Some practical things, also very important. It's a very potent ingredient, so we have only a 10 milligram per day dosage. We have a shelf life of 5 years at room temperature, so that's really amazing. And then also important, we have a non-novel status within the EU, so you can freely sell the product. As said, I get this question a lot, which makes sense. Why has it been heat treated? And actually, that's what makes this product so special. And the best way to explain it, and you also see this in the visual, is when you heat treat the product at exactly the right time, you basically lock in all the good stuff. And then what you get is two really great things. On the one hand, from the practical point of view, you get a product that's super stable. And on the more technical side, you get a product that actually works better. How does it work better? Well, indeed, it gets a bit more technical here. But what I think is important to know about this product is when you have the Lactobacillus plantarum, this particular strain has a lot of liponucleic acids around it. And those acids, when you ingest them, they basically interact with white blood cells. And that increases in turn the production of interleukin-12 and beta interferon. That's the best way I can explain it right now. As promised, I want to go into one of the studies that we've done, which focuses primarily on athletes and on upper respiratory tract infection. So what is already known for quite a while is that with especially athletes that have a high intensity training, so severe exercise, they have a very high risk, and you see this in the visual, of getting upper respiratory tract infection. Now, what we've done is quite a special study. So there's been a study with 78 healthy subjects, so a lot. It's been a double-blind, randomized, and placebo-controlled study as well. And we looked at if our product, so L137, if it could make a difference for these athletes. And indeed, it did. So both the severity, the duration, and also the incidence of upper respiratory tract infection was lowered significantly. So I really invite you to have a look later on at this study. It is very interesting and a very important study as well. Here's a slide with the frequently asked questions. Please have a look at yourself, at it yourself. I just want to summarize a couple things very quickly. L137, a heat-treated strain of Lactobacillus plantarum. I think mainly especially for 2 reasons. Because it's been heat treated, you get a practical upside. You get 5 years of shelf life at room temperature. Think of all the applications you can do. And on the other hand, because it's been heat treated, it actually works better than your normal probiotics. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the day, and please email me when you have any further questions.
Thank you, Marijn. Thank you for your presentation, Marijn, and great to hear this story, and especially the gastrointestinal tract topic is highly relevant, of course, for athletes, but also in personalized nutrition. There is definitely a key element to be discovered to maybe control even, but even start to monitoring in that. And this intervention shows great potential in that. Unfortunately, Martijn is not available for questions because this was pre-recorded, as he indicated, but definitely when there are questions, please still use the question bar here above me, and you can address your questions, which will be directed to MCLS in that respect. So definitely a good way to interact. It's unfortunately not possible to come back to the topic of Fuji oil and Dr. Kida because of the internet connections we experienced there. So that topic on soy protein functionality and soy development is pending. But next to that, I am honored and happy to present to you the presence of Nart Klabbers here in the audience also and in the presentation. Nart is a key person in personalized nutrition, active in that field for many years at different organizations, and now also started in that respect with its own activity and company by the name of HAP. And HAP will be explained by Nart in a moment, Chief Technology Officer at the company. So please, Nart, guide us along on these new developments with the company HAP. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Jeroen, and very interesting to hear all the other presentations. Let's see if my clicker works to go to the next slide. Yes, if you see the QR code, if you scan that, you will come to my LinkedIn page. You can connect with me. So please do if you have any questions or are interested in personalized nutrition in general, please link up. I like to have a broad network there. So first, before I talk about HAP, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about the nutrition of the future, which is personalized nutrition. What we see is that a lot of people, not only athletes, but also, let's say, regular consumers, will have more data. And what we call, let's say, personalized nutrition, we often talk about a bow tie. So you have a lot of data coming in, you have some kind of a decision engine, and a lot of advice and a lot of interesting, let's say, advice can come out. So that's a bow tie. And what we see towards the future is that this data coming in, engine, making it into advice, also needs, let's say, a feedback loop to make it an endless bow tie, what we say. So that's what we think is the future of personalized nutrition. A lot of data, decision engine, and interactivity with the user and the supplier of the information. So if you see that, then you really think about personalized nutrition as consumer empowerment, because you as a consumer know what you want with the data that you generate and that you can also use from other people, for instance, who have measured themselves. You can actually be empowered to make the right decisions. So for that, you really need trust and transparency. So trust that I, as a company, will not misuse your data, that your data will be safe, that you can trust the measurements of other people, etc. So that's really important. And to be able to really do that well, we also think that's different from the situation now, where every company is making a one-on-one solution. We will have ecosystems of companies working together, of companies innovating together to really bring seamless solutions and true added value for the consumer. So that's not only for athletes, I think, but also for consumers. Or you could say the other way, it's not only for consumers, but also for athletes. I think when they are interested in personalized nutrition, they will need a one-stop shop. It is not convenient for an athlete to have, let's say, one app for their smartwatch, another app for their meal planning, another app to go to the gym, etc. So really, this integration of data probably through joint innovation of different companies, I think it will be really the next step in personalized nutrition, to really bring these real life solutions and to have health and performance benefits. And I think that especially for athletes, you will see a lot of developments there, because there's a lot of data around athletes about their performance, about the impact of nutrition on their health, about the impact of nutrition on their performance, and all of that information now I think is not used to the fullest. Well, what does Hub do in that respect? So we are going to create a platform where consumers can go and get advice on, let's say, personalized nutrition across different channels. And hopefully those consumers in the future will also be athletes. And we are going to do that together with other companies. And one of the ways that it will be presented to consumers in the form of an app, which is always personal. So it's always related to a personal data profile that someone has with us. And that personal data profile will be your profile. So we're not going to store your data. You will be in charge of your own data. You can use that to get better advice. It will be interactive. So we will learn from what happens, let's say, in this relationship that we have with you, and we will use what we learn to give you, the athlete or a consumer, better advice. It will always be dynamic. So, you know, I always say that the best personalized nutrition advice on a Tuesday morning is completely different from that on a Friday afternoon, or for an athlete, it's different before or after a training. So really this dynamic interaction, I think, is really important. And to keep your behavior, you know, getting rewards, seeing the progress, having a short feedback loop is extremely important. So those 4 elements are what we are going to offer to the athlete and the consumer. We do a little bit more at Hub. So we are a very ambitious startup. So we have this consumer-first approach with the app and the platform that we've just shown. Also, we have this vision of co-creating this platform and the future of personalized nutrition together with a lot of partners. We have, let's say, a very unique view on our data proposition. So we really want to learn, and we want to use those insights also in our business model. And last but not least, we are working on a content platform to entice, to excite people, to show them what is possible with nutrition and health, and to help them really get involved with, let's say, data, personalized nutrition, and performance. So that's what I wanted to share with you. If there are any questions, please ask them.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nart, and great to hear from your startup approach, how you're diving into this topic with the data, etc. You especially mentioned the personal food navigator. How far is it away for the regular consumer, let's say? Can we start to look at the app stores to find it? Or
well, unfortunately, not yet. We are testing a minimal viable product at the moment. But we plan to be in stores with a real food navigator by the end of the year.
Yeah. And then that ecosystem development, I guess you would like to include multiple partners. But yeah, are there specific partners you would be looking for in that respect, or how is that process being evoked?
Yeah, so in the beginning, we are now working with hotel and restaurant chains, because there we see that there's a lot of opportunity for personalized nutritional advice. Towards the future, the amount of companies and the, let's say, categories of companies that we want to work with is very broad. For instance, retailers, but also food companies, ingredient companies, gyms, etc. But in the beginning, for the launch, we are looking at restaurants and also at specific target audiences like people with pre-diabetes. So that will be via general practitioners. So if there are any restaurants or general practitioners in the audience, please contact us for a very fast introduction to the market.
Wonderful, wonderful, Nart, and great to hear your story on this with the data and the startup steps you're making. Wishing you a lot of success. Thanks for your contribution for today, and a pleasure to hear about this. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. See you.
to you. And with that, we would like to continue with this after those pitches, which has been inspirational. We have seen a different point of views. I would like to thank the people here at the table for their participation. Dr. Katsu Kotu, thank you very much for being here with us in the studio and the interaction with Naro. Renger, great to have you over in the studio and participating in the activities and sharing your research insight. And of course, Judith also, thank you for your activities and definitely embarking up that position paper to start upon that. We will be here and we will change the setting of the table a little bit. But firstly, I would like to introduce you to Chris van Hoof. And Chris van Hoof is the general manager of One Planet Research Center. And Chris will explain about that in a moment. And he will share with us insights in this new field of personalized nutrition and also the use of artificial intelligence. And you designed a very fancy title for that, Chris, in which it is all about ships and the artificial intelligence as a source covering that. Please guide us along in that story. A great pleasure to have you over. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It's really my pleasure to be here as a Foodvalley NL member and to share our One Planet innovations with you. Now, when looking at the global challenges, it's clear that we need to act. These problems do not go away, but only will get bigger over time. And that's why a little over 2 years ago, we established the One Planet Research Center with the aim to create disruptive innovations building on the skills of IMEC, Wageningen University and Research, and Radboud University and Medical Center. The application innovations come from Wageningen University and Radboud University, and the main toolbox, the technical toolbox, will be chip technology coming from IMEC. Now, in One Planet, we can really build on this vast infrastructure, chip infrastructure of IMEC, and where pilot lines are available, very advanced pilot lines, and most key players in the chip industry work with IMEC. 3 billion euro infrastructure, 400 billion euro yen, and there's probably IMEC technology in every single smartphone. And we work at IMEC with many players worldwide, and the Japanese partners are highlighted not in bronze or silver, but in gold. See here, worldwide partnerships. And what are we now doing with this technology in One Planet Research Center together? Well, we want to apply these skills towards a healthy life, healthy food, and healthy environment. 3 main directions. And obviously, these are all connected. They're not isolated. What do we mean with a healthy life? Well, there's a 19th century expression which says, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And that's not entirely wrong, but also not entirely right. It does already hint at the link between nutrition and health. There is a 21st century proverb emerging that says, an app a day keeps the doctor away. And that is also not entirely wrong, but definitely not completely right. This hints at the ability to use technology and close interaction with the user. Renger Witkamp already said, sense more, measure more biomarkers. And a smartphone and wearables are a really good tool for that. Judith van der Horst from Foodvalley NL stressed digital innovations are needed. Well, these are indeed the innovations we are working on at One Planet. Now, how do we know which food is good for you? And particularly, if you would move to personalized nutrition, as the president of NARO indicated, well, then you will require AI, and AI requires data, and the data will come from new sensors and from sensor innovations. And that's what we're after. We already know that there's a profound effect of diet on health and even on mortality, as this Lancet paper from a year and a half shows. 15 dietary risk factors and the impact on mortality. But this is at population level. What we really need is the implementation of evidence-based personal dietary intervention. And again, that means personal tools are needed. And then I'm coming to those ingestible sensors and the necessary analytics and models to understand, to predict, to enable interaction with the user. But that is only the beginning. After that, you also need to give feedback and offer choices. Like here, this green beverage may be exactly suited for this gentleman, but may not be the right choice for me. And that's why we need to close this loop. Now, what are the sensing innovations we work on? There are 3 platforms. On one hand, sampling ingestible, which will sample in the GI tract and will enable offline biomarker discovery, microbiome analysis. That will be groundbreaking because we're measuring really inside the GI tract at different locations. The second platform is a smart sensing ingestible to measure a host of biomarkers throughout the GI tract for nutritional advice, but also for health prediction. And the third is a smart bathroom for continuous monitoring, partly health, but also partly nutrition. Now, what are we going to sense in this sensing ingestible? Well, pH, temperature, ammonium, inflammation markers, short-chain fatty acids, and so on. Now, why short-chain fatty acids? Well, they're the main metabolite of the microbiome. Directly studying it can be done with a sampling ingestible, but an indirect study of the balance of the microbiome can be done by monitoring short-chain fatty acids. So it's a very relevant parameter. And after all, the microbiome is an ideal target for interventions as well. Apart from the beneficial effects by monitoring short-chain fatty acids, protein fermentation can have adverse effects. And for that, we're looking at monitoring ammonia and other markers like that. Overall, the sampling ingestible will shed more light on the individual microbiome, and this has an effect also on gut health and even on general health. And for that is an important tool to shed light. Now, can we pull this off? Can we create such miniature lab inside an ingestible sensor? For that, we really need to turn to chip technology. And with a team of over 20 people and building on the teams from IMEC, the technology teams from IMEC, we are creating all the necessary ingredients, miniaturized sensors, fluidics, sampling, radio, and so on, so that this ingestible can work in a tiny battery. And what you see here is our first prototype lasting more than 6 days on a single on the tiny battery, transmitting every 3 seconds. It's an FDA size 1 capsule, so that's a tiny capsule, very comfortable to swallow. And we're now working on an investigational device that is undergoing sizable regulatory steps. And we hope to start human studies next year. At the moment, we're using this fantastic SHIME tool at Wageningen University for extensive tests and for already exploring use cases linked to nutrition and checking whether our ingestible can capture these. Now, the sampling ingestible, which reveals the microbiota, also is facing a large challenge. We don't know enough about the effect of the microbiome on health. You see here the microbiome analysis of one person after she did a 2-month diet in high diverse fibers. The population of a microbiome has completely changed. The diversity has not increased much, but a very different population. Is this now healthier? We truly don't know. And that's where we think our sampling ingestible can have a huge impact. Now, finally, this smart bathroom platform, well, adding sensors to the toilet gives you opportunities for analyzing urine, stool, or even blood pressure, which is an indicator for constipation. So, and is linked therefore also to nutrition. We're looking at the moment at a pilot that we're doing, monitoring particularly these factors, and a second pilot and a second study is focusing on hydration and dehydration. Very important for sport and athletes, but also important for elderly and health of elderly. This will fit inside this bathroom concept, where also feedback will be given to the user, maybe through a smart mirror. Now, the secret sauce will come from analytics, AI, data analysis, and models. So this is really essential that we build this environment for analytics and creating prediction models. And later, we're not there yet to also create these personal interventions. This will follow after sizable studies. A final note is that we do also look at behavior and mood and mental well-being, because they're also an important part of the puzzle. And we try to link eating behavior to measurements of mood and maybe expressions of stress. For that, we're starting studies. And as Kobori-san already said, relieving stress is very important. And as Renger said, you need to sense more in real-life conditions. And we think these new tools contribute to that. So in conclusion, it's not about the chips and the AI, but it's what you can do with them. And I hope that I showed you the great potential that these new tools can have. I hope it also gives you ideas and opportunities for collaboration with Foodvalley NL and One Planet. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Wonderful to hear on this new developments and yeah, those sensor tools. And directly from the audience, there are also a few questions I would like to address to you, because I see that's intriguing indeed. Fascinating developments for the hydration tools. And a question I would also have and here is, what is the target group? Where would you see the early adapters on such tools?
We have two initial population targets, and one is linked to sports, and the other is linked to elderly and elderly care, where particularly dehydration is a very big risk factor, and unfortunately leads to sizable mortality. So those are the two types of studies. And if you're interested to join or participate or collaborate in this space, we're very eager. Please reach out to me and we can start a discussion.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and of course, this is at the research and development field, and later on that might find its way into practice. One other practical question that came by from the audience is the swallowing of the sensor, the ingestible sensor. Did we, or have you ever been involved in a safety check on that? How far would you see such aspect to be addressed?
Oh, that's a very good question, and that's absolutely essential. So the entire year this year is spent at doing exactly that. All the necessary medical, regulatory steps, safety tests, and studies to demonstrate indeed the safety of these devices devices, because they are considered either a class 2B medical device, and so there are clear guidelines that you need to follow. And so we have a large team devoted to doing exactly that, because otherwise you cannot get medical ethical approval for conducting the studies. So it's absolutely essential, and we're putting a lot of focus on that.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and great to hear those steps also. It's wonderful, the inspiration you provide. We heard about the gastrointestinal topic also earlier, and see that the analytics will undoubtedly contribute to further understanding what is ongoing on there. And especially the topic of smart toilets, smart mirrors, the digital twin approach. We will definitely keep an eye on that. Thank you very much for your contribution today and your participation in this event. And yeah, lots of success with the next steps in those developments. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Arigato gozaimasu.
Wonderful for all Japanese guests today. Thank you. And with that, we have, of course, seen a lot of new developments from company perspective, from science perspective, and the developments here. It is now also a great pleasure to dive into a bit more of the practice and the actual activities that are taking place in sports and nutrition by people that were active in sports. So it's a great pleasure to introduce you here to Mark Huizinga, here in the studio at Papendal. Mark is an Olympic gold medal winner, 2000 Olympics in judo, and we will explain a bit more on that in a moment. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
Great to have you over and participating in this event. And on the other side of the ocean, in Japan, we see Mike Havenaar present. Mike, a very good afternoon for you. Great to have you here in the audience.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. We see your Japan shirt there. It is wonderful, and great to have you also participate in this little session on sports and nutrition and let's say the practical side of things. With that, I would, for both of you, like to introduce you with a short video we compiled. And we will start with Mike, being in Japan, also born in Japan, Dutch parents, but grown up in Japan, but also played soccer, both for the Japan national team as well for Dutch Eredivisie teams. Here is the short movie. Hey, Mike, that is wonderful to see, and especially also to see the Vitesse shirt here at Papendal. You have been training also at this center. The training facilities of Vitesse are located, so wonderful to see you both in the national Japanese jersey play and also in the various soccer teams, ADO and Vitesse here in the Netherlands. Wonderful. We dive into the topic of nutrition with you in a moment. And for Mark, we also did look into some of the judo examples, and we compiled some images from the Sydney Games. So let's move to that, and here is start also the introduction movie for Mark.
Representing the Netherlands, Mark Huizinga.
Huizinga has won the bronze medal.
Hey, Mark. Yeah, what goes through your mind when you see those images again? Is that
it's nice to see if you see the two videos, scoring a Nippon, scoring a football goal. You see the emotions afterwards are basic. They're the ecstatic it's nice to see. It's so universal in all sports, whether you throw someone on the back, if you make a goal, or winning a match it's all about emotion. Sports is about emotion.
Wonderful. Great to hear from you on that. And also with Mike in the audience, it's great to have you both here. Mike, first moving to you. When you were at your professional career, now you're at Kovu in Japan. How much did you think along nutrition in your activities? Was that a key item for you?
Yes, mostly before the game. We all eat with the team about 3 hours before the game. We don't eat so much, but we eat like pasta and some chicken fillet and some fruits to get hydrated. That's most of it.
Yeah. So there was a specific schedule you followed and a scheme that was designed probably by a guidance sports dietitian helping you. Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. And of course, with soccer, it's a lot about the energy needed to provide and play the game. And of course, items in recovery after the match also.
Yes, mostly there's going to be protein and some fruits to get hydrated again. And for the rest, a little bit maybe chocolate, and so to get the nutrition up again.
Wonderful. Yeah, great to hear and to see those profiles. Mark, being in judo, with competitive sports and in the whole day of events, oftentimes in the tournaments, sports and nutrition and the nutrition aspects for you, how did you guide it and how were you involved in that?
Yeah, as you know, we have weight categories in judo. So as you mature as an athlete, you grow into a category or you move up to a higher category. And in my early career, I tried to qualify for my first Olympics in the weight category under 78 kilograms. But I was 21, I was still developing, and I was 84 kilograms at some point. So I had to lose 6 kilos towards competition. So I cut my intake, I ate less, I did more running. So I could make it to the weigh-in at the morning of the competition, weigh 78 kilograms. And I could win most of my matches. But when I had to really fight the top players and I need all of my strength and my energy, I ran out of fuel because I restricted the power from my nutrition, my fuel. So that for me, that was a signal to go up a weight category higher. And that was 9 months before the Olympics, which made my chances to qualify quite slim. But at the same time, I felt so relieved and stronger than ever because I could just now eat normally and properly towards competition. And I could use that full potential of my nutrition. And that way I could win my fights, qualify for the Olympics, win an Olympic medal. So taking full advantage of my nutrition, it made all the difference. From that moment on, I never lost weight again for competition.
Yeah, good to hear. And also, especially with judo, of course, in the different weight classes, you have to fine-tune where you actually fit best. For both of you, we heard about this morning also a little bit. Sports nutrition guidance is provided via sport dietitians. Apparently, Mark, I think you had quite some coaching in that respect, also in balancing those weight classes. Can you elaborate a bit on that and then I'll move on to Mike?
Yeah, I must say, I've retired now for 13 years. When I was younger, I started my career, 30 years ago. The knowledge was quite basic. For instance, during training, when I was young, we were not allowed to drink. That was the sensei, the trainer decided, we don't drink during training. We make you a tough guy. No, but we know now that, of course, that decreases your performance. So with new insights, we know good intake of fluids, of energy, also during a 2-hour training where you can lose liters, is just very important. So that some of those old-fashioned ideas now come new insights, new knowledge, and now I know better how to time my intake of food before training, during training, right after training. It's so important to have that energy in your body to reach your full potential.
Yeah, that is great to hear, and that there was also changes in that field. Wonderful, Mike. If you look in your guidance by sports dietitians, what do you experience in the soccer environment, in the soccer team, for example?
There's always a nutritionist, I think, in the team. Those people will tell us what to eat almost every day before, what we eat for breakfast, what is good to eat after the training, at lunch, then before we sleep. So it's basically to keep fit, to keep our fat percentage very low, so we could run for the whole 90 minutes.
Yeah, great to see that coaching is there and you're assisted in that. You also mentioned here a fat percentage, and we also talking about that quite a bit today, the analytics or the data that are being analyzed and being gathered on their condition. What do you see happen now in that respect, Mike? Around soccer performance, there's maybe much more analytics going on. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, mostly with food, I think, and what we drink. Everybody's drinking, I think, more water now, and with the food also, low fat percentage foods. So it's the game has quite changed, I think. If you look at Cristiano Ronaldo also with these Euros, he said no to cola, drink water. And if you look at his body, you would see that his fat percentage is very low. So also with that, I think most of the players look up to him as well. And therefore, I think the fat percentage is getting lower, I think, every year.
Yeah, wonderful, Mike, and to also get into the, let's say, currently playing items in sports and nutrition and in the sponsoring. Very good. We observed that also, to assist in some redirectioning also maybe. You also mentioned, let's say, medical checks or health checks. You are undergoing those at a regular time interval also in soccer. Is that also increasing now to provide you more insights in those type of parameters?
Yes, but most of the medical checks, it comes before the season starts to see what our health is. Then mostly in the season, we check our body fat and how much we weigh, how much muscle capacity we have. So I think it's changing the game a lot.
Yeah, wonderful to hear that there's indeed increased monitoring and further data acquisition or data use in sports. Moving to you again, Mark, in respect to judo and how do you see new developments maybe in that field of personalized nutrition also being incorporated in sports in that respect?
Yeah, we are sitting now here at Papendal at the National Training Center for many sports, including judo. And we have, when the athletes here go to the restaurant, everything they order is registered personally. So the dietitians, they can monitor what is the food intake of our athletes at what time in their preparation. So that helps them to give them a personalized analysis and advice on how to where they can improve their eating habits based on this data. So that's an example of personalized technology helping performance.
Yeah, and then maybe looking into the specifics of a judo day, looking at the Olympics, there's a lot of repetitive games or matches in that respect. Is there a specific protocol that's being used by the athletes at that time for their performance?
Yes, you know, when you go to the Olympics, everybody has their own habits of preparing, eating, and when you're at home, when you're here at the training center, when you're at home, it's easy to control because you have everything available what you're used to. When you travel, it's sometimes different. You cannot control everything there. At the Olympics, it's almost the opposite because when you're in the Olympic Village, there are over 200 nationalities in the Olympic Village. And when you go to the dining hall, it's a huge dining hall. You can seat thousands of people at the same time. And the organization offers a huge variety of menus for all those different nationalities. And as an athlete, you can get tempted to try all those different things. There's almost anything is available, free of charge, 24/7. So it's very easy to stray from your habits and try different things, which is not a very wise thing to do if you're going into the most important competition of your career. Imagine you're a Formula One racing team, and the team decides on the day of competition to experiment with a new kind of fuel in the car. Well, everybody understands that's absolutely no-go. And as an athlete, your body is your racing car, and the nutrition is your fuel. So balanced intake, stick to your habits, what you're used to, and what you feel good, and what you have planned out, what you do at home in a training situation. Don't change it towards competition.
Yeah, wonderful. What we indeed see is that during the Olympics, you mentioned the large restaurant. All different cuisines are available for different country perspective or continents. And in that respect, there's a lot of food to choice. So stick to that game plan right from the beginning. That's advice here on that. And maybe moving back to Mike again. Mike, you also mentioned traveling with the Japanese team. Then you go to different countries playing international matches. What was the setup that was chosen there in that respect? Can you explain that a bit?
Yes, we always had a team cook, which came with us to all the countries. Mostly, before the World Cup, we go to a lot of Asian countries in which the cook will go with us, and he would cook for us anything actually. For what we eat, because we don't want any stomach problems along the way. So that was a major help for the team every time.
Yeah, giving also your personal guidance and food preparation in that respect as well. That is wonderful to learn on this and to hear about it. Then there's one specific aspect that you're also both involved in, and it's your connection to Japan, of course. And Mike, being born in Japan and grown up, but also played soccer here in the Netherlands. Maybe in the relation between Japan and the Netherlands, some items or observations in the cultural perspective you could highlight in that?
Yes, mostly I think you think of Japan, you think of sushi. But we're not going to eat sushi before the game because there might be some problems. That's a major difference. But mostly we eat the same stuff, I think, before the game with the preparations. And there's not so much difference, I think, in the nutrition levels between Japan and Holland.
No, okay. Really identical type of meal patterns and also preparations here in the Netherlands and in Japan.
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful to hear. Mark, you're of course active in a sport which has a great orientation towards Japan. You've been over to Japan also multiple times and practicing and also competing at the different tournaments. What are your experiences in that respect with Japan?
For Mike, Japan is home. For me, when I go to Japan, it also feels like coming home. Maybe not the first time that I went there, but as a judoka, now I've traveled many times to Japan. Japan feels like homecoming in the home of judo. And of course, especially in the dojo, the training hall for judo, even though there are I have had many fierce battles there, which is good because that's what I come for. The people are polite, they're friendly, respectful, and with all this judo around, I always felt welcome and at home. It's a pity I cannot be there next month when the Olympic Games are held there.
Yeah.
But understandably, we have to deal with those restrictions.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the case. And learning about your experience in Japan and the passion you see for judo also there. What are the items, or is maybe the major item in the Olympics you're looking forward to? Also in this respect, maybe?
The first good news is that this week we heard that a Japanese audience is allowed in the stadiums. Yeah. And that will make a huge difference for the athletes. This will give so much more energy and experience to the athletes in the field of play. So we're very happy with that. And my main attention, especially in the beginning, in the first week, will go, of course, to the judo event, which will be in the first week. And for the first time in Olympic history, we will have the judo team competition. 3 men, 3 women together, representing their country. And of course, Japan will be the big favorite to win that title. And I know how much pride and honor is a part of Japanese culture. So can you imagine the pressure on the Japanese judo players in that team? They have to win the gold medal for their country, in their home country, in the national sport, in the historical Budokan in Tokyo.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's going to be epic. I look so much forward to seeing that event with all the tension that comes to it. I'm sure I'll be glued to my television screen for the 16 days during the Olympics. And I must say also a big thank you for Japan for hosting this event. You know, there were some uncertainties and it's been harsh times for the whole world for 1.5 years already now. But I think, billions of people around the world are looking forward to watching those Olympics and all the excitement and the drama that it will bring. So really looking forward to that.
That is great to hear, Mark, on that. And well, indeed, the honor that things will continue in that way. Maybe Mike, also being in Japan, looking at those Olympics, any items you would be highly interested in or looking forward mostly?
Of course, I would be looking at my TV as well. But mostly for the football team of Japan. Yeah. They're going to play against France and Mexico and South Africa. It's a very difficult group. But I hope that they can go through and maybe get a medal. And for the other parts, I'm looking forward to judo as well. Major sport in Japan. I hope that they all win the gold medals, but the other countries are good as well. So I'm looking. I'm excited for the whole Olympics Games going on with this coronavirus, and the levels are coming down, but it's still here. So I hope that there's going to be no problems, and I hope there's going to be a good tournament.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mike, and well aware that we should be very cautious on the developments of Corona items in that. But great to hear also your focus on soccer and judo, and for Mark the same, looking into the judo tournament at the historic location, and we will definitely look forward to it. So I would like to thank you both here for your insights on the nutritional aspects at the elite level, at the Olympic level, all in preparations for the upcoming Olympics also in that respect. So thank you very much for your participation right now. Mike, also, thank you very much. Success in follow-up activities in Japan, and great to follow your next steps in that. Thank you. So, and with that, we have seen the practical side of sports and nutrition and the personalized nutrition approaches in that respect also. And was especially also enjoyed was some hints and insights on the Japanese-Dutch interaction in that respect, and also stimulating the interaction in, well, the field we're in personalized nutrition, food and health, and in general agriculture and food. And with that, it's a great honor to basically wrap up this morning and this insightful event with the presence of Evert-Jan Kraaienbrink, again in the Olympic or in the Tokyo Embassy studio, being there. Evert-Jan, good afternoon. Great to see you, and wonderful to, if you could wrap up and provide some insights on the Japanese-Dutch interactions and on the things we have heard today. A pleasure to give you the floor.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Good morning, Jeroen.
Yeah.
And good afternoon to the viewers in Japan. It's getting dark meanwhile here. Thank you so much for giving me the floor and the opportunity to say a few words on closing this beautiful event, which took place on the special platform of the TMNL Tokyo Expo called Rangaku Now. In the event of today, you talked about personalized nutrition as a driver of sport success. So how appropriate it is to organize it 1 month before the start of the Olympic Games. Experts shared with us their insights by showcasing examples in the field of nutrition. Firstly, I would like to mention and thank you, Foodvalley. About 2 years ago, you, Jeroen Wouters, and Yolanda Wells visited us at the embassy in Japan to prepare a large Foodvalley summit before the Olympics 2020. And then COVID-19 came and everything was cancelled. But Foodvalley persisted and organized this online event a year later. It's great. You have so much to show in introducing innovations in food research. Then about the speakers. Firstly, the first part was to set the scene. Our very first speaker was the ambassador of the Netherlands in Japan, Mr. Peter van der Vliet, who told us about his past as an amateur sporter. He referred to the 3 pillars of success, like rest and practice, and linked personalized nutrition as the 3rd driver of sport success. Furthermore, there were other guests from Japanese and Dutch research institutes, and I'm happy that Dr. Kuma and Dr. Kobori from NARO gave us their clear presentations about their priorities, like the Moonshot program, Society 5.0. While Dr. Renge Witkamp of the Wageningen University and Eat2Move gave his presentation on the trends and the developments in personalized nutrition in the Netherlands, especially on measuring the dynamics of health and big data analysis. It has also been a privilege to have Dr. Shihoko Suzuki in the program. She's the chairman of the Sports Nutrition and Dietitian in Japan. And she played an important role as vice chair of the Olympic Village Menu Advisory Committee. And she informed us about the food policy in the Olympic Village. Then the second part, which consisted of concrete innovations of Dutch and Japanese companies. How can all these knowledge, which was discussed before, can be applied in business cases? Topics like insect proteins and the personal food navigator. My thanks go to Mr. Tom Moorman, the CEO of Protifarm, Marijn Lanting of Mitsubishi Life Sciences, and Mr. Nat Klabbers, the Chief Science Officer of HUB. In the last part of the program, the so-called inspiration session, it was very exciting to learn more about the personal experience of top athletes. It's great to hear that Mark Huizinga, the Olympic judo champion, and Mike Havenaar, who played for the Japanese national team, as well as you refer to it, Jeroen, for football clubs like Vitesse and ADO Den Haag in the Netherlands. By the way, my team is FC Groningen, but disclose their view on the performance on nutrition. All the speakers made one thing clear. The Netherlands and Japan have a lot of things in common, like the aging populations and the need for healthy nutrition. The pandemic outbreak of COVID-19 urged all of us, athletes and non-athletes alike, to pay more attention to health, our immune system, and our well-being. With the Olympic and the Paralympic Games, more people will be interested in doing sports. It's the perfect momentum for sport nutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, Cooperation between companies and countries needs to be organized in a professional staff. And for that, if you need to put it bluntly, we need funding. And in that respect, I have good news for you. I'm delighted to mention that the EU recently has approved the funding of a new project called Global Future. And Foodvalley NL is part of this winning European consortium. This project will support European small and medium enterprises and startups to tie up with the companies in Japan and Asia to develop sustainable solutions for the food chain. This 30-month-long project will start right after the Games in mid-September 2021. This will mean that there will be plenty of future opportunities for you all, the viewers, to explore future businesses. I'm convinced that today's event was a great success and gave a wonderful overview of the current academic research and product development in the field of personalized nutrition. Let me finish by again showing my sincere appreciation for the distinguished speakers, Foodvalley, partners who organize this event, and of course you, Jeroen, as the moderator of this event. Arigato gozaimashita.
Thank you, Evert-Jan. Great to hear the summary of the day, and also great that you share some new developments also in that respect. So thank you and your team also for the preparation and assistance in making all the connections between the Netherlands and Japan. And it's a great honor to participate with you in this respect. And as we said, there is a lot more to be developed. We see academic research, but we see also use of that information in practice by companies. And therefore, it's a pleasure in the next slide to show you, here we are with the symposium. Again, that project that was also referred to by Evert-Jan, the Global Future Project. This will start after the Olympics and will allow SMEs and startups, small and medium enterprises, to further develop their new items and innovations in various countries in Asia, and especially Japan also in that respect. So there's always good new opportunities to be involved. And with that, I would really highlight again the activities of Foodvalley to get that global connection and to get connected. And with that, this brief summary of the event is closing. It has been a true and great pleasure to have you all participating, and that it has been an inspirational event, providing insights on those new developments we are experiencing here. And we will definitely keep on going on this. And we will definitely also look forward to the upcoming Olympics, another 4 weeks to go. And I would like to provide you that inspiration. Keep on moving, what your activity might be, and also combine that with a healthy and sustainable diet. And that personalized tools will be there and will further develop to assist you in much more detail in that. Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure to participate in this. Thank you for all participants, and thank you for all speakers and other people involved in organizing. Wishing you a great day and getting ready for the Olympics. Bye-bye.